plugged in the House gallery exposition. There will be two press conferences here, and I've got to include some food. Yep, that's it.
Sorry, where am I? Oh, yeah. Got you. Absolutely. Happy to help.
How are you?
I'm good. I cannot complain. How's it going today?
Good.
I'm good. Still good.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Chad. Frames like 14 will be good bonus week for us earlier. See it now before you.
All right, cap up 22. Cuts camera for the upcoming press conference, but I've got some sound bites to feed from the Republican meeting this morning.
Hello, folks.
Perfect. Can you see over me?
Okay,
Oh my God, not that again.
no, it's all, I don't know, Bill can certainly say, have anything to do with this, I'm sure, because it's a Republican press conference coming up. And it's the,
So?
Media Center, Chris. How's it going? This is Sam with House Radio TV. I'm good. I can't complain. Hey, quick question. Would you mind switching channel 63 to Studio A for me? Thank you. Appreciate your time. Bet. Sounds good. Bye. I like Chris. He's nice.
The new vaccine? It's dumb. Should have.
You guys mind if I close this right here so no one's tripping?
Yeah, steroids. Much worse than mine. I don't know.
and it's the new Speaker of the House who was watching Ed O'Keefe on
No,
his
it's a whole new
past McCain.
I know. That's right. That's right. Apparently, though, you can't get it until you've had COVID.
Press conference.
Now you have to wait. Yeah. But I'm on.
That's smart.
Never. I don't ever remember. Where's David? Oh, yesterday. Yeah, he should be getting here anytime. Did Johnson come back by? Didn't say. No. That's what I was doing. I guess all of the time looking for him. It's weird. I went to the back door to get the dissenters. I opened through the door and there he was. I mean, that boy shot him early. Hi. But that was just by luck. And then the TV guy said
Okay,
he'd
I'm
come
following
in
the Cotton
40 minutes
Council
earlier for the back.
The who?
The National Cotton Council.
That sounds like
So not allowed to have any audio.
Really?
It's basically just like photo ops, but you know, or just like the photographer running around with the president of the Cotton Council when he meets the senators and congressmen.
Oh.
But it's video.
It's for their
So there's no
in-house.
audio for their in-house.
They're gonna show what we
When we go.
For their website.
Really?
That's
You
smart.
think.
They're
means
not
they-
allowed to
you
use
think the office
them
would.
from the gallery.
They put out baby. And
Like, I'm not even supposed to.
one announcement for
It
Dimitri.
is.
Yeah.
Remember the Exxon they're having the hearing.
Again? She's not in photo. Okay, so then I guess. Yeah, she's not in photo. She just didn't
Show up.
possible. She's in a totally different. So, they
Yeah, sure. Did that go out yesterday, or is that for?
it's for tonight, barring.
He didn't know where. Oh, God.
Morning.
So check for 2 years.
1 year, you're gonna tell us.
Got to start, huh?
Because I can get low salt.
Who is it?
Yeah.
He used to be our chief camera.
I remember you,
Face
I remember
one.
you were in town a couple times.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put it. Problem is,
Yeah, I was.
oh no, you have to take the whole amount that's in there.
Oh. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Especially that.
Get hammered.
You know,
Making sure
Someone like
nobody
me,
was so.
yeah, if I'm supposed to count like at least 62.
You're paying 36%.
yell at Pedro for going natural lighting only.
I haven't even seen. What's the max tax?
37, is it?
What?
But
That's what I'm thinking.
you gotta go to state also.
Well, you know, where was when they were doing all the construction?
No.
It'd been great if they had taxes before it went in, the front end. Where they are now? No, no,
It's not even.
when they were doing the construction.
You know,
It was awful. When in there, it looked like a submarine. Because all the, there was no windows. And they put, while they're doing all this, like, that's not hard. Well, I'm glad to have you around, Bob. It had like all these, all these jelly bellies, like the candy store where you fill up the
Of
bag.
course, all that happened after.
All kinds of candy and all this stuff and a big street. Beer, and it was good beer. When I was there, it was.
Yes.
One caveat, slight caveat to this, there's a little asterisk at the end of this.
There'll be no currency, but we'll work.
That had, I don't know if they say moves, I don't know if they say. We used to have one at Potomac, an old one. And then the
Yeah.
South, we built a South.
I mean, I might take it. Jonathan Newton, definitely take it.
It was
Bill
awesome.
Murray,
It was like an old school.
Potty Joe's, yes. As far as I know. And then there's, no, there's Deb.
I didn't even know she.
We'll have to work everybody.
She's still eating country.
We all do this same way.
No wonder you quit drinking.
She's in the California edition. You know
That was
that
a
post that goes out to California?
There you go. Your measure of rum.
My old boss was.
Sun's well over the yellow.
Well, I know they put it in the station.
On the first floor, it's like, that's where I got stuck.
They moved. But, they had a.
Yeah, I think there's like, there's actually a lot.
Stop it.
But
in New York, the building, they moved, so I don't know what it looked like. The last one they were.
Came out in the porch.
Like, don't bring news home.
So,
I know your way from anyone around. Anyone that
It
you
was the old
that
double
shit away
wing.
from
It
you.
was the old double wing.
Enjoy your life.
They had the same thing. We have.
Cancel cable.
At our office
Just
now,
couldn't.
something.
Yeah. Just watching your, you know.
I just.
Get away
I
from
saw
work.
it.
Molina's good. No, no, they've got it.
It just got in the mail.
I know, well, black one? Begins with D, right? Right, the packaging and stuff is nice, is it? Yeah. It's like, the instructions are, dude, the packaging is beautiful, but you can't understand it.
I did. Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. Yeah. You got, you gotta make sure. Did you register?
No, I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Sit there and like enjoy it for a
You
while.
have to register the unit itself. I think it requires a
Okay,
serial
channel
number.
one's better.
When did you get, like,
I'm gonna cut it off at 10 o'clock because I gotta get Scott.
I got it like 5 months ago. Yeah, I got it before.
I just gotta get.
It's in effect right now.
That's
It's on ID. So it was supposed to be September 24th.
because nobody could get them.
I hope so, yes.
Oh, is that right? So you don't have to use it right now?
No,
Okay, well, do you want me to try to go to bars or something?
that's why I'm not rushing.
Yeah.
Well, I will be. Okay, I will be watching the
Drone tag. Is that it?
That's what I got. So you just charge it up before you go?
Charge it. I've used it a couple times.
As far as I know, it does not.
Although, it's hard to believe there's a little guy sitting behind a computer monitoring.
People violate their.
Oh, the
There's
time.
never any power.
No. No, they won't.
I want
There's
that
never,
job.
and there's never an email that says, hey, you flew into
Never.
unauthorized airspace, or anything like that.
What would I need? I don't have a fucking license.
Doesn't.
Right.
Oh, you leave. The fines that you could get.
You know
What did you do? Did you test it? Were you like,
Before, about 2 years ago, people were flying drones. I used to be like,
The drug police.
yeah, like, you know, drone police, I guess, right, at the post. And I used to send out emails like, hey, this person's not supposed to be doing this, this person's not supposed to, like, ratting people out.
Yeah.
Because I kept thinking, you know, they're gonna, and then we're not gonna be able to fly. None of us, right? So I was the drone was just ratting everyone out. Why is this person flying a drone? They didn't have a license. And I ratted out Sal. Finally, like, they forced him to go take the test. Good. Stop doing this shit. Yeah. So then I finally said, you know what? You guys want to fly a drone without a license? Think it's okay to go into other countries and fly drones that are in a different country? And then, you know, no one bothers to check whether see if they're covered under the insurance or what's going to happen? Someone's going to put a drone in the wrong place, going to come down and chop someone's head off. And then they're going to get a lawsuit, and they're going to say, how come you don't have insurance? Oh, because you don't have a license. That's why you don't have insurance. So I just said, do that how you want. It's not my job.
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely.
Some matter of course.
You know, anything like that. It was annoying me.
Yeah, because he was like, I don't know what it does. He's not gonna trust. Or something. Gates said like,
Yeah, Bart, how's it going, man? I think it's, first of all, I like the fantastic shoes you're wearing. Let's start with that. Good point to add one of them. And I got no problem with the hat. So you got that going for you too.
All right, that's good, thank you.
Or mittens. And then forget thermos next time.
I was almost gonna wear a scarf today because I knew I was gonna be in the room.
You look good.
Huh?
You look nice.
Take off those.
No, I know.
Actually,
he was a
it's
speaker.
a lot.
I
I
wanted
from outside. Yeah.
Okay.
Knock yourself out.
socks.
Hey, my legs step on my
No
heel a
one
bit.
can wear such
Doesn't look
cool
like anybody
socks,
is on
and
this.
I'm gonna start wearing
These
cool
are my
You get to
socks.
wear a color ever.
That's
I mean,
that's true. Yeah. I don't
wear
know. I'm
blue
gonna wear
suits or gray
a
suits.
purple blazer. Spice it up.
Yeah.
You can get away with like a deep burgundy.
I have a pair of like burgundy, like Merlot colored pants that I feel like I can wear about twice a year because you need
Yeah.
6 months to forget that I've worn them.
$5.99.
No, it was already on. Maybe Ben turned it on.
I was like,
Maybe I forgot.
But I'm gonna start upping my sock game. So just you wait.
acceptable as hell now. It's an understatement.
Just you wait.
You know, if you're gonna think about it, I'll just go ahead and
Yeah,
change it.
exactly.
I'll just go
Exactly.
ahead
If you
and
have to
change it.
say that, probably not a good idea.
That's a nice way of saying no right there. It's very polite.
That is funny.
Could you give me a test ratio?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Thank you.
6, 7, 8.
You guys have both.
We're right on line. Well, that one.
I mean, look, he has to work with Democrats. You can't get 270 Republicans to agree today is Tuesday. So funny. He always finds a way to bring it back to Trump, though. He's like, you know, my priority. We know your priority.
Yeah, I went pretty quick.
Yeah.
It went fast, but it was actually like forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and out of the way before it's incinerated. They went, we'll talk. My two kids. Loved it. No. One caveat. In fact, my daughter was just so good. All the time. Everything was close. It was. Into the hoverboard. Yeah. Yeah, but the rest of it.
Everything. They're expecting a lot of people, huh? Yeah.
was it at?
They've been gone.
What's up? How are you?
Good.
Never thought of Tom as a conformist. Coming out. Heads up.
Good morning. Earlier this morning, I joined many of our House colleagues to watch video footage of truly unfathomable brutality committed by the hands of Hamas terrorists against Israelis. This gut-wrenching footage of pure evil is a stark reminder that Israel is currently fighting not only for their right to exist, but for the rights of Jewish people everywhere. These horrific images of atrocities are etched into my memory forever. We mourn for the mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, grandparents, and children, including babies, who were tortured, killed, and some kidnapped by these abhorrent monsters. Today, many tens of thousands of people will line up on the National Mall in support of Israel. House Republicans have stood up and rejected this evil time and time again of Hamas terrorists. We passed a bipartisan $14 billion aid package that ensures our precious ally Israel has the resources it needs to defend itself and eradicate Hamas once and for all. In addition, there has been a nearly 400% increase in anti-Semitic attacks across this country, with many occurring on college campuses. Jewish students in my home state of New York were forced to barricade themselves as pro-terrorist protesters pounded on the doors of a school library. Posters of innocent Israeli hostages were ripped down across the country. Fellow students and professors accosted and assaulted Jewish students with deplorable anti-Semitic slurs and used physical violence. Instead of clearly condemning this hate, these so-called, quote, elite colleges, including my alma mater, Harvard, have cowered to the woke leftist mob that has embraced terrorists and forced their Jewish students to live in fear. Anti-Semitism has no place in America, no place in this Congress, no place on our college campuses, and no place around the world. Following today's press conference, I will be joining my education and workforce colleagues to address this very issue in a hearing. I would like to now pass it over to our Chairman of Foreign Affairs, Michael McCaul, who just returned from leading a congressional delegation to Israel over the weekend. Chairman McCaul.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everybody. This morning, I worked with the Israeli ambassador to screen a private screening of the Hamas invasion and barbaric killing of Jewish people, 1,400 of them, 250 hostages. Horrific scenes that I can't get into detail about because they're so disgusting. And the thing is, the worst part of it wasn't even in the video. ripping a baby out of a mother's womb before her eyes and killing her child before they killed her. The raping of old women, young women, the torture, the violence. They are a messianic cult. They are a terror organization. I think, if anything, and they wanted members to see this, to never forget, to remember what happened on October 7th, as we see the narrative shifting that somehow the Palestinians are the victims. Well, I can assure you, everybody who saw that video today knows who the real victims are. The victims were the Jewish people. Now, I went to the Kfar Assad kibbutz on the border of Gaza just a year ago within Speaker McCarthy, and to think that all of them are dead, that the daycare center was violated and children were burned alive and beheaded in front of their parents, and then they killed their parents after that. I'm the son of a World War II veteran. My dad bombed the Nazis. They bombed the Nazis who were killing the Jews. I thought this was over after that war, but this was the largest killing of Jews since the Holocaust. It's, as Madam Chair mentioned, anti-Semitism is now on the rise in this country. It's not acceptable. Israel is fighting for its own existence. I just got back from there, met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he is stronger than ever. And he's determined to eradicate Hamas, de-radicalize Gaza, and turn it back over to the Palestinian people after they are freed from their oppressor, their terror oppressor, Hamas. It reminded me of Churchill and his fight. This is a fight not only for survival, but a fight for their own very existence right now. And it's critically important that the Senate pass the Israeli funding bill that we passed here in the House. Should have been done yesterday, as the Prime Minister told me, but it needs to be done as soon as possible. They need the weapons to win. The Prime Minister said we need ammo, ammo, ammo. That is what we need in this fight against terror, to defend the Jewish homeland. And so I thank everybody here for participating in this video. And now I turn it over to our whip, Tom Emmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Many of you have headlined this week as being the Republicans, House Republicans, quote, first big test under our new Speaker. But I say this week is another opportunity for our conference to govern where Democrats have failed. Let's recall the Democrats' days of you have to pass a bill to see what's in it. House members were forced to vote on 1,000-page omnibus spending packages released at the 11th hour on the eve of holidays before members ever even had a chance to read them. But this House Republican majority under Speaker Mike Johnson's leadership is saying no more. We're bringing common sense back to the nation's capital with the Speaker's two-step stopgap funding plan. By passing this bill, we will avoid a government shutdown, fully pay our troops, and protect Americans' hard-earned taxpayer dollars by preventing another omnibus monstrosity, all while putting House Republicans in the best position to continue fighting for conservative victories. That includes our continued commitment to fight wasteful spending and to secure our southern border. It's not lost on us that we're facing an uphill battle here. Democrats control the White House and the Senate. But now is the time for House Republicans to stay united as a team and remember the goal. Americans elected our House Republican majority to counteract Democrats' failed agenda and change the way things work here in Washington. We have an opportunity to live up to that mandate today. So we're going to get to work and we're going to get it done. And with that, I'll turn it over to our majority leader, Steve Scalise.
Well, thank you, Whip. And as I stand before you for the 10th week in a row, I know you're all going to miss us and hopefully have a great Thanksgiving with your families, because we will take care of our business this week, and then finally, after 10 straight weeks here, be able to go back home, and hopefully everybody can have a wonderful Thanksgiving before we come back and continue the people's business. But this is a busy week, And as the whip talked about, we have a number of items to take care of. And today, front and center, is passing the government funding bill that I want to commend our speaker for negotiating and frankly for breaking a paradigm here in Washington. One of our biggest frustrations that we've talked about for months since we took this majority is that we would not have an end-of-year Christmas Eve omnibus bill come to the House floor. When Speaker Johnson got elected, he made it very clear we were not going to end this year with an omnibus where you get these 3,000-page bills that nobody's read that get dumped right before Christmas Eve, and then nobody has a chance to read the bill. It's got all kind of Christmas list items, hundreds of billions of dollars that nobody even saw before. We finally are breaking that cycle by bringing this two-step CR to the floor today that's going to ultimately bring government funding into January and February, breaking the bills apart so you don't have everything expiring at the same time, but also setting up a real fight over securing our nation's border, a fight that's been needed to have for a long time since Joe Biden opened the border, since we started seeing millions of people coming into our country illegally, with all of the devastation that it's brought, with all of the concerns that you see around the world. There's no more important time that we have a secure border. You saw Chairman McCall talking about the devastation in Israel and the war and the need for us to support Israel in their fight, which we are supporting against Hamas in this terrorist organization. But there are dangerous countries all around the world. It's not just Hamas. Iran is the largest sponsor of state terrorism, including Hamas and other terrorist organizations. We're bringing a bill to the floor this Thursday that will freeze the $6 billion that Joe Biden wants to give to Iran. And the Ayatollah recently bragged, that if he gets that $6 billion, he will use it for whatever purpose he chooses, including continuing to fund terrorism like Hamas. Why would the Biden administration want Iran to get that $6 billion? Well, we're going to have a vote on the House floor to block that money, and hopefully you see a broad, overwhelming bipartisan vote. I know it was split in committee. All Republicans voted for it. The Democrats were split. But this should be a larger vote. I think the whole country is going to be watching and saying, why would you dare allow Iran to get another $6 billion when we know they use that money to fund terrorists like Hamas, who are killing Jews, who are beheading babies. You see the atrocities in Gaza still to this day. So hopefully we can be united in that and get that bill to the Senate and get that bill to the president's desk so that he ultimately signs the bill and freezes that money so that Iran can no longer have that additional money to fund terrorism. So we're going to continue to do our work this week, but it's an important week, and then hopefully everybody has a great Thanksgiving. With that, I want to yield it to our speaker, Mike Johnson.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank this extraordinary leadership team. They're doing a great job, and there's a lot on our plates, as has been discussed. I do want to address Israel briefly, and then we'll take some questions, but it was 2 weeks ago, of course, that a bipartisan group of House members passed our substantive and immediate aid to Israel. We thought that was important. It was the first big thing that I did when I became Speaker. The aid package meets every specific ask of the Biden administration supplemental funding request because those are the requests that came straight from our ally Israel. It should have already soared through Congress. It should be signed into law, but it's not. And so we're calling on the Senate to get serious about this and get serious about supporting Israel. Last week, we heard directly, as you know, from families of Israeli hostages who were taken and being held in Gaza, and their stories are heartbreaking and tragic. And you've heard about the film that we watched this morning. We had a large group of Republican and Democrat members of the House in the auditorium this morning, and you could have heard a pin drop, except for the sighs and the cries in the room, because the video would make anyone with a soul cry. What we saw is just harrowing, firsthand videos, GoPro helmet cams and shoulder cams from the Hamas attackers themselves on October 7th. And if you have a family, if you have loved ones, you cannot watch this without being ripped apart. I agree with our friend Prime Minister Netanyahu, who said this is a battle between good versus evil, between light versus darkness, between civilization and barbarism. And we want to make absolutely clear where America stands in that fight, and we'll continue to do that. The only goal of these barbaric savages, if you can see in these videos, and you've seen the still shots and all the rest, that they were, as was said, they wanted to kill and rape and maim Israeli citizens, innocent citizens, families, small children, pregnant women, the elderly. They want the annihilation of Israel, and it's their intent, and it is demonic. There's the only way to describe it. The Middle East is a tinderbox right now, we know that, and we have to do all we can to avoid a broader regional conflict and prevent further escalation. And so it is absolutely imperative that we send this aid to Israel immediately and show the rest of the world that these acts of terror against our allies will not just be met with unflinching condemnation, but with steadfast support. It is in our national interest to do so, and I think everyone who looks at this objectively has to agree that that's true. In my acceptance speech 3 weeks ago, I said a strong America is good for the entire world, and I believe that. We believe that to our core. We are the beacon of freedom, and right now we need to act like it. So we call on our Senate colleagues, we call on the White House to get that measure completed. We have the CR today, and I know you'll have questions about that, so we'll go to a few. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Fox.
Thank you. Good morning. My question is, how hard a sell has this been to your members? Because they said this is essentially the same thing that bounced Kevin McCarthy. And if you get fewer votes from the Democrats than he got, or fewer votes from Republicans than in the previous CR, doesn't that undercut the essence of what you do?
No, Chad, this is an important innovation, okay? And as was explained earlier, as long as I've been in Congress for 7 years, we have governed by omnibus bills right before Christmas. It is a terrible way to run a railroad. And the reason that we're in such trouble with our federal debt is because Congress is addicted, obsessed with this deficit spending. What happens, as you know, there's a CR that goes right up to Christmas break, and then they jam upon us, as has been said, thousands of pages in legislation that no one really has a chance to adequately read through and digest or amend or anything else. Last year it was $1.7 trillion, you know, with a few hours' notice. And they added 100 or 200 billion extra sprinkled on top of spending that no one had ever actually vetted or gone through. We cannot do that anymore. We have a $33.6 trillion federal debt. Moody's downgraded our credit rating just this week. 2 weeks ago, the Treasury Department announced we have to borrow $1.5 trillion over the next 2 quarters to keep the government going. We cannot do that anymore. And so the latter CR, the two-step CR, everybody calls it something different. It's a new innovation. But it's going to change the way we've done this. We have broken the fever. We are not going to have a massive omnibus spending bill right before Christmas. That is a gift to the American people because that is no way to legislate. It is not good stewardship. It's the reason we're in so much debt. That and you know, the effects of Bidenomics, but we have to change it. And so we've gotten together. I believe there's going to be bipartisan agreement on that to break it up and put it into January 19th for the first tranche of the bills, and February 2nd for the rest, and that will allow us to go through the deliberative process in good faith. I'm going to take everybody at their word that we're doing this in good faith, to do the appropriations process as it should be done. Should have been done before.
That didn't seem to satisfy some of the, arch conservatives in your conference. That's why the Freedom Caucus put out a statement
Yeah.
saying they were opposed.
Chad, I'm one of the arch conservatives, okay? And I want to cut spending right now, and I would like to put policy writers on this. But when you have a 3-vote majority, as we do right now, we don't have the votes to be able to advance that right now. So what we need to do is avoid the government shutdown. Why? Because that would unduly harm the American people. Troops wouldn't be paid. We know all the effects of that. And so we have to avoid that, and we have a responsibility to do it. But this allows, as was said, as the majority leader said, this allows us as conservatives to go into the fight on the next stages of this, to talk about real border changes, policies at the border, to close the southern border, to get it under control, to talk about the oversight that's necessary on additional Ukraine aid, to get Israel done if they don't do it as we beg them to do. All these other matters in the supplemental, that puts us in the policy discussion, and we'll have stringent fights on principle and philosophy and cuts as well. Go ahead.
Just to follow up on that, a number of Republicans are supporting your plan to avert a government shutdown, but you've obviously heard the concerns from the some that are not. What did you tell those members who call your plan a mistake, who say it's a surrender?
We're not surrendering. We're fighting, but you have to be wise about choosing the fights. You got to fight the fights that you can win, and we're going to. And you're going to see this House majority stand together on our principle, and we're going to do that. But the shutdown would occur on November 17th. Look, it took decades to get into this mess, right? I've been at the job less than 3 weeks, right? I can't turn an aircraft carrier overnight. But this was a very important first step to get us to the next stage so that we can change how Washington works. And I think the latter CR, the two-step CR, however you describe it, is a big, important part of that. And I think every member in that room agrees that that's an important innovation, and it changes the way things are done. Let me go to Monterey real quick.
But you're doing what Kevin McCarthy did. You're extending government funding. You're not including spending cuts. Democrats, you're going to need that to carry this. He lost his job, in large part over this. Are you concerned at all that this could make your speakership any less secure?
I'm not concerned about it at all. And Kevin, should take no blame for that. Kevin was in a very difficult situation when that happened. This is a different situation. The innovation that we've created, this new vehicle that the Democrats initially said was so frightening, actually turns out to be something that will change the way we do this. And so this is a very different situation. We're taking this into the new year to finish the process and get back to the original way that this is supposed to work. And by the way, the House Republican Conference is committed to never being in this situation again. I'm done with short-term CRs. We're resolved. So what that means is you're going to see in the beginning of this next year, we'll be walking and chewing gum at the same time. We're going to get the appropriations process running on time as it's supposed to be under law. The Budget Control Act of 1974 has very specific provisions in there on how this is to be done. Congress hasn't done that for as long as we can remember. But we're going to get back to that because that's good stewardship. The American people deserve it. And the debt situation we find ourselves in necessitates that. So let me go over here and I'll go back and forth.
Just on a personal level, how are you feeling about the reality, like you just mentioned, that you do have a slim majority, you are having to work with a Democrat-controlled Senate, a Democrat in the White House, so you have to pass something that's kind of against your conscience. How are you feeling about that?
Well, look, getting us beyond the shutdown and making sure that government stays in operation is a matter of conscience for all of us. We owe that to the American people. I believe that we can fight on principle and do these things simultaneously. When you have a small majority, it requires some things are going to have to be bipartisan. But I think these are issues that every member of Congress should agree on. We are on an unsustainable track with our debt. There's no two ways about it. And I think everybody recognizes that we've got to get down to the matter, the heart of this, to change the way we do business. We have an important role to play in the world, but we have to take care of our own house first. And these things must be done simultaneously, and it needed to start a generation ago. It hasn't, and we're on the job now. We're going to make it happen. Last question.
On the CR, I mean, this whole Congress has been kind of a struggle to pass conservative-led appropriation bills. What gives you confidence that you can pass appropriations bills in this time frame that are going to be conference? I mean, obviously Democrats will come over and help out, but are you confident that you can even pass these appropriation bills on the proper deadline?
Yeah, part of the reason I'm confident about this is I've been drinking from Niagara Falls for the last 3 weeks. This will allow everybody to go home for a couple of days for Thanksgiving. Everybody cool off. Members have been here for, as Leader Scalise said, for 10 weeks. This place is a pressure cooker. And so I think everybody can go home. We can come back, reset. We're going to get our group together. We're going to map out that plan to fight for those principles. And we have some great plans in the playbook already. And I look forward to rolling that out. You'll see much more of that. We got to go out. Thank you for your time.
Quick Israel question. Are you committed to having a supplemental pass before the next CR passes?